So some interesting discussion online, a couple of different D&D YouTube channels that I really enjoy following. This debate seems to come around yearly, and I think especially since we are sooner rather than later approaching a new edition of D&D. This idea of, and I am polarizing things a little bit for the sake of this vlog. It's not always as polarized as this, but this idea of, as a dungeon master, if I'm running a campaign, if I'm running a game, if we're going to be playing every week, I dictate the characters, I dictate the world, I tell you what you can and cannot play, and here is the template. And that could be something as basic as the classic Player's Handbook classes, or maybe I'm like, hey, it's Forgotten Realms, here's your list. That seems to be one idea of a dungeon master playing. And then there's seems to be this expectation which has been fueled by Fifth. And I'm a supporter of it, I'm going to be honest, if I'm going to put the vlog out, where players have this expectation, I should be able to play any class, any character, anything that I want to play, regardless of your campaign. If it doesn't exist in your campaign or your adventure world, I should be able to play it because it's D&D. Now, where do we fall in with this? I think this is further accelerated by the fact that as we move to the new version of D&D, D&D Beyond is going to be, of course, not only supported, but more and more stuff is being pushed to D&D Beyond. We're going away from physical. We're going to, you pay money for your stuff that's not even real. It's not even a PDF. It's just an online portal. And we'll get you with a subscription and just we've got you D&D for life. Am I exaggerating or not? We'll see. All I can say on that, on a side note, because I don't want to hijack this vlog, there was this thing that was extremely hyped. More hyped than D&D 5th edition. At the time, D&D 1, D&D Next. 4th edition was so hyped. Now, I've gone on record saying I enjoyed 4th edition for what it was, but it was a pivot too fast without the tools in line to play. The idea behind D&D 4 was to make it an MMO point-and-click online experience, and essentially you'd have the D&D portal, the D&D Beyond portal that you would access and literally play the game through. For a variety of reasons, that didn't capitalize, it didn't manifest, it didn't quite work. Players got upset, and we have perhaps the shortest edition of D&D, but now D&D 4, now we're at D&D 5. They've learned from that. They're going to push for it, but I say that because this idea of D&D Beyond is you're paying, and there's an expectation where, well, if it's on D&D Beyond, I should be able to play it anywhere and access everything. Now, a lot of DMs seem to be complaining about this. I'm like, hey, this is D&D 3.x all over again. Whereas a DM, I had to contend with multiple sources, multiple books, multiple character classes, multiple everything, dipping into multiple character classes. So I'm this, I'm that, I'm this character, I've got that. Where we have like first level characters that are really, not that challenge rating was implemented back then, but on paper you're a first level character, but with the various buffs and say untested character classes, you're like at like challenge rating 4 or 5. So I can understand from that perspective of DMs that want to control everything and enforce that, where they can be, this is what you're allowed to play and this is what you are not allowed to play. Now, where do we go with this? What side do you fall in on? I see it both ways, but I agree personally with one way. And I'm going to put that out there. If you're running a D&D game, you get to decide as the DM, this is how I want to run it. This is the world. This is the setup. I believe as long as this is an exchange of time, right? The dungeon master and the players, whether it's 2 players, 4 players, 10 players, it's an exchange of time and of respect. Both of us, all of us are taking time out of the day to sit down and play D&D. Time absolutely well spent. I'd rather be playing D&D than working on this paper that I have to write. Absolutely. Any excuse you give me is fantastic. So from that perspective, this exchange, I want to respect the players and I'd like them to respect the DM. So I feel like as a DM, as long as I'm upfront, respectfully saying, I'm not trying to limit you, I'm not trying to gatekeep, I'm not trying to enforce, but this is the world that I'm running, this is the vision, and here's what's playable. Then I think players can decide, do they want to be a part of that game or not. Session 0, we've explored that. I've pushed that up to the channel here. But on the opposite side, I can see players, especially new D&D players coming in, saying, I'm doing the D&D Beyond. I'm used to MMOs. I'm used to this online experience where I've got multiple character classes, multiple different choices. I want to play them. I want to utilize them. And D&D is a toolkit to do that. Where I personally fall in is all of my games, no matter what we're playing, whether it's, hey, this is a cool module, I'm just going to run this module, and we'll figure it out after if we want to continue or play something else, to, hey, I want to run something for like 8 months, maybe a year. We're going to play and this massive, massive campaign. We're going to go low levels, mid-tier to epic. Regardless of what I'm running, any class, whatever you want to play, pull in anything. We'll make it work. I'll figure it out. I might not know everything. I might have to have you remind me, or I might do something in an encounter where a monster attacks and you have to remind me, well, that's not going to work, or you can't do that within the rules because of this and this and how it interacts. I'm okay with that. I've played a lot of D&D. I feel confident that I can navigate that to have a good player session, because what I want to feed back into was, again, we're taking time out of life, and I want us to have an amazing experience. So what you like about D&D, your creativity, the characters that you bring, your ideas, I want them to manifest as best as possible on the table. I want you to be excited for your character class. I want you to be excited for the different things that you can play. If you do that, you get into your character, it becomes your avatar, it becomes you in this living universe. That just makes the D&D experience that much better. It makes my job as a DM, or I should say my responsibility or my honor as a DM, to be able to work on that and really craft some interesting stories. So I see it both ways. I personally fall on the side of the players. Bring whatever you want to the table. That's what a character bio's for. It's D&D. Look, how'd you get here into this world? I don't know. Magic, something, portal. Here we are. We'll figure it out. We'll write something in and we'll play it. I would rather do that, even though admitting that there's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of stuff out there for D&D. I would much rather do that than just say, well, here for this game, here's the gatekeeping. This is all you can play. This is all you can do. Here we are. That stifles creativity. But I can understand and I can respect DMs that do it as long as they're upfront. Session 0, or saying this is the game I'm going to run. This is what's allowed, as opposed to someone starting the game or showing up for the first session with a character and then being told you can't play that character. That I don't think is very productive or necessarily good for the community. And unfortunately, I have seen that. But again, I think the openness and being inclusive, that's the design, and that's the way to go with D&D, and I think that extends in all those directions. But players are different, DMs are different. Where do you stand on that? And we're going to polarize it a little bit. Restricting characters in a game, and again, that restriction might be like, here's the 8 you can play, core player's handbook, or it can be Forgotten Realms, it can be big. Or do you just say, look, if it's D&D, if it's got the logo, it's in and you're in. As a player, as a DM, where do you stand?